Okay. By the time I post this, it will be morning, so good morning. But while I'm recording it, it is currently 12:20. So long time no see. It feels like it has been forever since I recorded a coffee chat, and posted it and seen everybody. So long time no see. Congrats on getting through January, which felt like the longest month ever. But I'm not sure what we're going to talk about this morning. Well, this morning. So I'm going to order some coffee because I feel kind of lazy. I don't really want to make coffee right now. So I'm going to order some coffee. And while I'm ordering coffee and waiting for it to be delivered, I will think about what we're going to talk about. Because I'm not sure just yet. So grab your cup of coffee, order a cup of coffee, and then let's sit down and we'll chat about something. Okay, I have my coffee. It made it. It kind of spilt in the bag during delivery, which is why I have I poured it into my own cup, but we have our coffee and we have a topic. I have decided that we are going to talk about motivation. I've been talking a lot about motivation, with clients lately. Honestly, like, not even like really, like, I feel like motivation's always a part of like the therapy conversation. But I feel like, I've been talking maybe a little bit more about it with clients lately. So we're going to talk about motivation while we have our coffee. So okay, so what do we do? Let me propose a question first. What do we do when we want to make a change? Goodness, didn't mean to whack my table that hard. When we want to make a change, a lot of the times, how we start a new routine or a different practice or a new mindset is that we find the motivation within ourselves to put something different into practice, to make the change happen. So there's a lot of like the initial motivation that comes with change and within therapy of why did you come to see me? Why are you interested in starting therapy? And a lot of the times I kind of phrase this a little bit in sort of like, where are our treatment goals? And we've talked a little bit about those pieces before of like what clients typically can say about treatment goals and things along those lines. But a lot of the times that's like the initial motivation is, why are you coming to treatment? Why are you coming to see me? And we harness that a bit, but I would say I quickly engage in identifying where other motivators can be. And the way that I usually do that is like, I like to tap into other pieces of ourselves and how we like recognize ourselves, to add, so to kind of combine like the challenge and also like a method or engagement type that we kind of enjoy. And I loosely use enjoy in this context. So what I mean by this is that if I wanted to make a change, I would say that I would want to reflect in what is the change that I want to make? How, like, for example, let's go with coffee, because coffee, it's a coffee chat. So let's say that I no longer want to drink coffee in the morning. I instead want to drink more tea. But I love the flavor of coffee. I love the warm, cozy. It's thicker, creamier than tea. Tea's very watery, of course. And so knowing myself, right? I would want to engage with a motivator builder in the sense that I make sure that I always have a fun or a favorite coffee cup to help with my tea, drinking my tea. I need to substitute a favorite, right? I was saying that coffee is, is a favorite because it's creamy, because it's got some milk in it, or some type of dairy or non-dairy product in it, versus tea can be kind of watery. And so I know myself that I need to substitute a difference. So I need to make sure that I always have a fun or a favorite cup that I can drink my tea out of each morning while I settle into this new routine until I feel like I've ingrained it a little bit more. So that's what I mean by, balancing our change, our motivation, and also like a little bit of like an enjoyment component together, because the change is going to be hard no matter what. Change is hard. Our brains get really used to one particular way, and then it kind of settles in. For the most part, our brains do not like constant change. It likes the routine. It likes to be able to predict. It likes to settle in. So when we change, there's a natural uncomfortable component to it. And so that's why it's helpful to tag it and some motivation that I'm making the choice to change from coffee to tea for my health. Let's say that. For my health and so there's my motivation, is that I'm making the change for my health. How do I consistently stay motivated for my health? And it's a fun cup. It could be something else, but for this example, for me, it's a fun cup. I want to have a fun cup to drink out of. And so I make sure that my fun cups are always pulled to the front of the cabinet. They're always washed, all of those things. Maybe I set out my fun cup the night before, so it's a little bit easier for me, whatever it might be to keep me motivated. So there's that piece. Then I would say that there's another phase of a motivation conversation to have with ourselves, or that I have with clients, and it's when motivation tanks. What do we do when I have no motivation left? What do I do then? Millie, stop eating things off the floor. Thank you. What do I do when I have no motivation and forget it? I'm having coffee. Forget it. Get rid of all the tea. I don't want it. Forget it. Right? That is when our motivation of favorite cup, health benefits, all of the things that I started with are no longer enough for me. And so I can still have the motivation from the fact that like I would like the health benefits of changing from coffee to tea, or that it's better for my body. I can still connect with that, but I need to also reconnect with why else I might be making this change. Or because of this passage of time since I've started the change, have I noticed any other motivators? For example, less headaches. It's faster for me to make tea instead of coffee. Cheaper. Whatever it might be, those can also be motivators, because I've now started on this path of change, and I've sort of gathered some of these other motivators that have kind of like sprouted off on my journey, that I've recognized that the tea that I buy is ultimately cheaper than buying coffee grounds and coffee creamer. It's faster for me to make a cup of tea then make a cup of coffee. Those pieces can add to like my motivation for me sticking with it. And I would say that they'd help you stick with it if you really connect with it. Time management, that's important to me, because sometimes in the mornings I'm not the fastest of getting ready, getting out of bed, having breakfast or whatever. And a lot of the times I'll have to cut things from my morning routine to obviously make it to work on time or to log into a session on time, things like that. So the time efficiency is important to me. Making tea instead of a long process of making coffee, I'm all for that. Saving money, that's also important to me. So you can pull these in as motivators as long as they're like important to you or that they connect with you. If I identified that I read an article that, let's say, black tea is just a good substitute for coffee, doesn't really do much for me, right? And so because of that, like I wouldn't count that as like a motivator for myself to continue on this journey, because it's not really connecting with me. It's not doing anything for me. And so there's that. But I'd also say that it's just helpful for us to continuously reconnect with why I'm making this change. There's a reason why I chose to switch from coffee to tea. And ultimately it's because of my health. So we don't, I would say that like engaging in that way can be helpful. And after you kind of like reconnected with some of those like motivators, I would say then the next thing would be to check in on the behavioral side, because like I said before, I was having fun cups. Fun cups is how I helped keep myself motivated. That's not enough anymore. Or that's not the activity to engage with anymore. And so, what do I need to change? And it could be the flavor of tea. Maybe I'm having, too much of one flavor. Maybe I need a different flavor. Maybe I need a different way to enjoy my tea. Instead of it's only the tea bag and hot water, maybe I'm adding something else to it. A little bit of honey, or maybe I'm having it and then I'm cooling it and I'm adding lemonade to it. Whatever it might be, but I need something different. The fun cups is no longer doing it. And I would say a lot of this time, like I said earlier, our brains like routine, but they can be almost like working against us if we don't periodically change things up a little bit. And so like I would say like not in the sense that this is going to be the definite preventer of your motivation tanking, but it can be helpful to stay motivated longer, is to already be doing like these sort of switch ups. So instead of me only banking on the fact of like the design of my mug or the funness of my mug to keep me motivated, or waiting until I'm so depleted of motivation to acknowledge the fact that like I'm saving money and time, checking in like with myself and switching things up a little bit to identify those pieces earlier so that it keeps filling my motivation bucket, meter, whatever we want to call it. It will help that like I can recognize those sooner, instead of feeling like, well, here I am and we gotta make tea again. I'd rather just have a cup of coffee. And then pausing and finding the motivation within ourselves. I would say the other piece that's helpful for motivation is pieces that have nothing to do, like I was talking earlier about like time, like adding time back into my day and also money back into my pocket. Like those are like sort of like added bonuses that you can like recognize as reinforcement. But I would also say like we could also use reinforcement just in the way that it is, that like if I'm really struggling with consistency of my change, then how can I reinforce that like I'm doing a good job, that I'm also acknowledging that I drank tea all week and I haven't had a single cup of coffee in the last 3 days, whatever it might be, right? Like allowing yourself to celebrate those moments, because even though they feel small, right? It's also about like, you know, I wanted to make this change and I've stuck with it. Go me. Yeah, why not? Acknowledgement and celebration, no matter the size, is always a good motivator for us. Pausing to recognize that like this has been hard and I did it. Motivator. And so it's important that we are kind of like acknowledging like throughout this course that like our motivation might flux and change, and that's okay. That should be expected. And how can I also help myself stay motivated through the change? Because just the singular motivation of, like I said, with our example that we've been talking about this whole time, the singular motivation of I'm changing from coffee to tea because of my health, it might not be enough. And I can almost guarantee it. I say almost, because I'm going to say like 95% of the time, it is not enough. Our brain will not recognize it. And so like there will come a point where you have to connect with your motivation to continue fueling your change, to keep fueling the routine. Otherwise, the change isn't going to stick. It won't. And so I would say like there's those pieces that we have to recognize, we have to engage with, we have to celebrate, to keep fueling our motivation as we do things and make changes that are hard and difficult. Now, in this conversation, I talked about a non-therapy example, but that doesn't mean that we can't adapt sort of the same premise to therapy. I specialize in obsessive compulsive disorder. I have these conversations all of the time with my clients at each of these different stages in their treatment. And they are stages. There comes a point where clients need a reminder of why we're doing this in the first place. And I always find it interesting that a lot of the times their initial motivator kind of changes a little bit. It tweaks a little bit. And it usually tweaks or changes because of like the conversations that we've been having, the discussions that we've been having, the practices that they've been doing. You can see it sort of start to like absorb into their motivator for why they're coming to therapy, why they want the change. So it's very interesting. But these, like I said, these are conversations I have all of the time. And it's always difficult because when we are feeling that depletion of motivation, it's very common for us to look to anybody or everybody of, tell me what my motivation is because I don't know anymore. And so it can be helpful to have these conversations with our support systems, our loved ones, because sometimes we get too close to the practice or striving for a singular goal, like a closer goal, like or just we're too close to the practice, or we had a bad day. That happens a lot. I'll have lots of motivation conversations with clients after they've had a really tough week, and they're feeling really down. And so like I'll have a lot of conversations then, or like I said, they're too close to the practice and they've lost a little bit of sight of like what they're ultimately aiming for. So having those conversations with loved ones, support systems, or a professional like myself, a therapist, are not a bad thing. Allow them to help you reconnect with why you're doing this really difficult thing, this really uncomfortable thing. Change is hard. So it's okay to have those conversations. And the other piece that's helpful is that your support system or myself, as a therapist, I do like to use like some of these moments as a progress check-in. Like, you are doing the work. You are allowing it to soak in, like, because of this or that, or this is how our conversations have changed. I've seen this change in you. That is the reinforcement that, oh, I am making the progress. Okay, I can keep going, right? So like sometimes like that conversation can help us reconnect with the fact that like I am making progress. I'm not spinning my wheels like I thought I was. Because I think that sometimes in therapy, there comes moments where it feels like I'm spinning my wheels, and that's not true. That's not true. It's just that the progress is slower or smaller, and that's okay. Progress is still progress. So let me know your thoughts on motivation, how you build motivation, how you continue to build motivation through a change, all of those pieces that we talked about today. I'd be interested to know how you tap into building your motivation, because I think it's different for everybody, and who knows, your way of building motivation could be the key to somebody else to help them stick with a change. So I hope you have a fabulous February. Once again, it was so nice to see you. I feel like it's been so long since I've posted a video. I hope you have a great February. I will see you next month. Stay warm. Bye.